But then sex is one of those issues that is difficult to get honesty about. And remember, I spoke to you about the men being cultured to have more than one woman.
Yeah.
The women are cultured to not have more than one man.
Take me over the other side then, because about time to shift the camera of the men, and let us see. Is there a percentage ranking of any sort, Kato, to say what percentage of women are more likely to be unfaithful as opposed to men?
Well, in terms of being unfaithful, the
Or
percentages
faithful,
are generally far less
Yeah.
for women. So
Yeah.
you might see something that says like 7 to 12% of women, but you see that it may be well past that for men.
Okay.
And the range is sometimes so big that you wonder where that data comes from.
Right.
So you see something like 25% to 45%. And that's a very wide gap. For men are likely to have an affair or have said they have had one. And that's a very large gap. And that's the first thing that causes you to look at this data in a suspicious kind of way and say, can that be really so? But then sex is one of those issues that is difficult to get honesty about. And remember, I spoke to you about the men being cultured to have more than one woman.
Yeah.
The women are cultured to not have more than one man, because you will be the equivalent of socially, emotionally, psychologically, and legally flogged.
Right.
If you do that. But the question is, who is the man going to be unfaithful with?
Well, that's a
That's what I ask all the time.
not so many.
Right? But women have a lot more to lose
Yes.
with being unfaithful.
Yes.
So it's not, so you find that the percentages in the data come out as being far less, right?
Right.
And of course, as I said, when it comes to sexual things, it's always underrated.
Yes.
If people think that somebody will know what they have said honestly, they're less likely to give you the straight answer.
Yes.
Right? So they will understate if they have been unfaithful, and they will overstate if they have been faithful,
Right.
because they know what will happen. The man will not have if he overstates his infidelity, he won't have a problem.
Right.
But the woman can't do
Can't
that.
do that.
She has to
She's
understate it.
discriminated.
Yes, she has to understate it.
But take it to the other section now. What would be some of the contributing factors? We understood the men. For the women now, it wouldn't be driven biologically, I suppose. Well, addiction,
Yeah.
So
sexual
it's on
history.
both sides.
But
It happens on both sides.
what are the more likely things?
I think also sexual history and
Sexual
past,
history
how you were socialized into
Yeah.
sex.
Yes.
Would also impact whether you're driven versus not driven. And I find from the little studies that you've seen, it shows that most women who tend to be highly sexually driven, or tend to have more exposure from an early age. Yeah.
But I want to put something on the table, and you interact with that a bit for me. A woman, I believe in the coverage of women by their husbands, or wives to be covered by their husbands. What do you mean by that? That I must give her assurance that I love her, and all that goes with the territory to make her feel special and so on. When there is that absence, women are exposed and consequently are vulnerable. It is said, statistically supported, even though I may not quote the figure just now, that a lot of the extramarital relationships are formed in places where we socialize. it's a 1-2.
Yes. Yes.
The workplace, the church,
Yes.
Institutions, you know, and so on. So, whilst in this arena of the work, there's this guy who's just super nice. He makes you a cup of tea. He wears a cologne that smells nice. He opens the door for you, and you have not been having this kind of coverage from your husband.
Yes.
That opens the door.
That's true.
And I'm saying
Follow the enemy,
that
yeah.
whereas we know the men fall in a place, they don't have to wait until these places, by what you have reported, we don't have to wait on these special things to fall by the wayside. But the women, when they are in this environment,
Yes.
they are exposed in a greater way. Isn't
That's
that true?
true. Yes.
So
Perhaps.
what's your comment then on this place, whether it's you're commenting on what the men should not allow to happen, or whether you're putting out a word about the women being cautious in these kinds of places?
I think anybody needs to be cautious.
Yeah.
Yes.
There is this phenomenon that people refer to a work wife or a work husband. I personally don't like it.
Yeah.
I don't
Likewise.
think you should
me,
do that.
tell me and my audience what you mean by this
Okay.
expression. work
There are
wife.
people who refer to, like a woman will refer to a man at the workplace that they work very well with and they're particularly close to and they're a good friend, and they will call them the work husband, and also the other way around. And sometimes I've actually seen like the man's wife may joke about it. That he's so and so's work husband.
Got you.
Right?
Right.
His wife
Right.
will do that. As I said, I see some.
Yes.
I don't agree with it, but I think it depends also on the perspectives of the people. Because there's another wife who would say, I don't like it.
Right.
Don't do that.
Right.
Right? Because they see it as the risk that it is.
Right.
When you work closely with somebody, feelings of togetherness start to develop. It's the same way in which if somebody would come to you and you're a counselor and he tells you all the things he cannot tell his wife,
Yes.
he is going to feel close to you.
That's true.
And part of your role as a counselor is to explain to him that you will feel this. Because
Yes.
guess what? Some of these things you're telling me you would not have told anybody. And part of my role is to be non-judgmental.
Yes.
So if you come and you cannot be in this kind of an atmosphere at home, and it goes the other way around too for a counselor, but I'm just using this as an example.
Right.
You bring up, one of the things you bring up early is that there's a possibility that feelings may develop.
Right.
Because we are human people, we're going to be working closely together. You're going to tell me all about your life, all about your children, your sexual issues, your emotional issues. You are going to feel a connection to me as your therapist. And as a responsible therapist, it is something that I need to bring out at the beginning and say, this may happen. You may have overly positive feelings toward me. You may also have negative feelings toward me, and you bring it up early. No, it can happen in any context that you work with somebody regularly enough, and a synergy develops, a connectiveness, right? There are some couples who I know who do sessions like overseas, and they never leave their spouse behind.
Yes. That's a
Right.
good point. Yes.
In
The
fact-
spouse goes anywhere they're going, right?
Yes.
The spouse goes and they will foot the bill for the spouse's travel,
That's
Yeah.
right.
but the organization that is hosting them will foot their
Yeah.
will foot
And
their-
yes, and you have to set clear boundaries.
Yeah.
And even just by your very demeanor, you can use to set boundaries.
Yes.
You know, so.
So you're talking about the whole experience of transference and counter-transference and
Exactly.
bonding being formed
Yeah.
Yeah.
and so on. Right, so one has to be very careful on
You
that.
have to, and I'm not saying you go around with walls up all the
Right,
time and you can't
but-
get close to people,
yes.
because you're gonna have friends.
Yes.
But then you also have to know, am I moving a little too, right?
Yes.
Because some people will tell you, well, you know, we were there working in the office, and then all of a sudden we're there on the floor without our clothes on,
Right.
without our clothes on.
Exactly. Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And they may even tell you that they're surprised this happened,
Yes.
Right.
right?
No boundaries.
Lack of boundaries.
No boundaries. Yes.
But whereas obviously we'll not be able to, finish this, but I to be remiss of me for us to close without go down a particular line, I would say, which is we identify and even name a problem. Infidelity, if you will, the lack of commitment to monogamous relationship, and we identify that. We have spent time looking at who is more likely to be affected, the male or the female.
Yes.
We have looked at influencing factors that bring about this kind of challenges, demise. I want us in our closing arguments to look, what do we say to some people who have found themselves in this kind of quagmire, unfortunate situation of infidelity? Let's say it's in a case that is known. What are you saying to the innocent spouse? Yes? And even so, within the context of church, are we advocating for closure, instant dismissal, moving right along, or there's a place where people need to fight for their marriage, since this clearly may not have been a perpetuation over time, or perhaps even if it is, let me not be the one to say it. I'm going to start with you, Natalie, if you want to share a view on that, and then come back to you.
Yeah, so I think people have to fight for their marriage.
Yes.
You know, you have to fight for your marriage. And as Kato alluded to earlier, you know, things can happen without you least expect it to. But I'm not opening up any door for things to
No, not
happen,
at all, right?
But there is a place for forgiveness and reconciliation. And I think that the spouse that created or did the damage has to really change and want and show that, you know, they have actually changed.
Yes.
And want, and also have to then fight back for that love and that respect and that forgiveness from that spouse. So I would never advocate for separation, but there's a place for counseling, healing, reconciliation, and don't ever dare let this happen to us again. You know, because that infidelity can really wreck people. You know.
Very well. Katie, your closing words?
You see, infidelity strikes at the heart of trust, intimacy, respect, just being able to be with this person that you're with in any way you feel like, and knowing that they have not been anywhere else is priceless. It is a gift.
Right.
You see, when two people can honestly look each other in the eye and say, we are doing this.
Right.
Right? One of the things that I tell people, when you have a problem in your marriage, don't tell your family. Don't tell your father, don't tell your mother. Because when you have forgiven your husband for having fathering twins with the woman next door, your father is not going to forgive him for it.
Right.
And he's going to want to bring out the shotgun. And he's going to pressure you probably. Walk well, left him. Be finished. But the truth is that if the two of you start out with saying, we are committed honestly to get past this and make this work,
Yes.
then it can change. If you need somebody to talk to about what is happening, get a neutral party. Don't involve the family members who are going to take sides and maybe help you to make a decision that you're going to regret later.
Right.
Because you can get past infidelity, although it's like you're putting an axe to the root of a tree, right? Especially to the spouse who hears that this has happened. You have to face the woman with the children every day because you don't want your husband to be a reprobate, so he needs to support his children,
Very well.
right?
One final comment here that I want to ask. You want to say
Yes, I
final
want
word?
to say one other thing, not necessarily about infidelity, but just want to encourage our women to, since, you know, we spoke heavily about the drive that men generally have due to their biological makeup, that we have to also be intentional about sex in our marriage, in our relationships. We have to be. We have to, you have to study your spouse's body and rhythm, and know when there's that, because you can pick it up, when there's that drive, that call for that. And sometimes even if you're not in the mood, you have to put yourself in that mood. You have to be intentional. You have to make an extra effort. Because there are times when, as women, and I'm speaking from somebody who's been married for 13 years, that you don't have any feelings, you don't have any drive. You have so much on your plate, you have so much work to worry about. But you have to be intentional, even if it means to get up out of the house and drive out, do something that will give you that drive to feel good about something that night. Because trust me, I know it's not easy on the men them when you tell them no.
Well, that sounds like it is setting us up for another time to
like
talk about the burdensome patience of the men. But what I hear us closing out is that monogamy is biblical. It is what God expects. Notwithstanding, there are deviations because of the reality of human weakness and sin. But a relationship in marriage is deserving of us fighting for it. And should not give up on our marriage and our relationship. Get a neutral party that will guide in the process, and so that healing can take place. Forgiveness, I hear being said, whether it is the woman who has failed or the man that has failed. But once parties are willing to work together, all things are possible. Thank you so much for joining us on this set. Natalie, you'll take us
I want
out.
to thank you again for joining us too, Kato. Really happy to have you. I want to thank our sponsor, Mattox Health and Fitness, our resident producer, George Malcolm Walker, our program development director, Damian De Aguilar. Thank you for our viewers for watching. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel at New Foundation Christian Ministries. Like us on Facebook at New Foundation Christian Ministries. And follow us on Instagram at B1 Marriage Ministry. Thanks too for my glam. Thank you so much.
Next
Bye.
time.